Patriot and Doctor. The story of Dr. Samuel Baldwin. Loneliness is often one of the most misunderstood and profound afflictions that people face. It can lead even the strongest individuals to mental despair, and it takes a remarkable person to confront the shadow of solitude. Please take a moment to hear the story of a man who battled loneliness for many years. At the age of 70, he found renewed strength and achieved more for his fellow human beings than perhaps anyone else in Chenango County, discovering his purpose in the well-being of others. This is the story of Dr. Samuel Baldwin, a patriot of the Revolution, whose name is connected with the historic Boston Tea Party. He now rests peacefully in an Oxford cemetery in Chenango County. Despite leading a life filled with activity, Dr. Baldwin struggled with the profound loneliness that followed the loss of his beloved wife. Born in 1756 in Massachusetts, Samuel Baldwin was a young man when, on that fateful April night in 1774, a group of patriots dressed as Native Americans dumped tea from the schooner Dartmouth into Boston Harbor. This act ignited the Revolution, and because Baldwin was actively involved in the fight against unfair taxation, he was one of the first Minutemen to respond to the call to arms. A skilled marksman, Samuel Baldwin faced danger without fear. Any redcoat who found himself in the sights of Baldwin's musket was in grave peril. He fought bravely at the Battle of Lexington on April 19, 1775, and later volunteered to join General Gates's army, which had been tasked with a challenging expedition into Canada. Unfortunately, Samuel Baldwin contracted smallpox, a feared illness among soldiers at that time. Determined not to be left behind to succumb to the illness, the young soldier chose to keep his sickness to himself and marched on with his comrades. Dr. Baldwin journeyed across the ice of Lake Champlain and through the forests, covering a remarkable distance of 60 miles in just one day. His unwavering courage propelled him forward until the expedition led by General Gates was forced to retreat against overwhelming forces. It was only at that point that young Baldwin, exhausted, had to return home, where he faced the heartbreaking reality of his condition. Yet, the spirit of patriotism is truly remarkable. With each rider who brought news of the ongoing war, young Baldwin felt an even stronger sense of purpose. Determined, he saddled his horse, secured his musket, and set off once more towards the east. Within weeks, he rejoined the ranks of General Gates's soldiers and witnessed the historic moment at the Battle of Saratoga when General Burgoyne surrendered. After the war, Sam Baldwin, now fully recovered and standing over 6 feet tall, dedicated himself to his education and ultimately became a doctor. He began practicing in West Stockbridge at the age of 28. He later married, but tragically, during what was supposed to be his most fulfilling year, his wife passed away, leaving him to raise their young daughter alone. In 1800, after serving twice as a representative in the Massachusetts Legislature, he moved to Wyoming, Pennsylvania, where he lived, except for 2 years in Ohio, until 1819. Dr. Baldwin continued to serve his community for several years, while his daughter grew up and married Epaphras Miller, an apothecary, eventually relocating to Oxford in Chenango County. Despite his efforts, Dr. Baldwin wrestled with profound loneliness, feeling as though he was fighting a battle he could not win. It was only when he approached the age of 70 that he decided to move in with his daughter in New York State. When one steps back from a struggle and takes the time to observe their surroundings, a new perspective often emerges. Upon arriving in Oxford, Dr. Baldwin recognized a significant need for medical care. Drawing on his past experiences during the smallpox epidemic, he set aside his personal troubles and opened a new practice. He performed basic surgeries by candlelight, set broken bones sustained in the woods, and cared for those who were unable to pay for his services. An adept woodsman, he would often venture out into the night, responding to urgent calls for help, frequently reaching the afflicted home even before the messenger he had sent. By the time Dr. Baldwin approached his 90th year, the lingering effects of smallpox and the traumatic experiences he endured during the war began to take a toll on his health. Dr. Baldwin had a strong and powerful body, and his mind was clear and vibrant. He showed great compassion for the sick around him, offering them courage drawn from the vast experiences he had endured throughout his life. However, he carried a heavy burden that he seldom discussed, his deep sense of loneliness, especially for the wonderful woman he had lost in Pennsylvania. One autumn morning, Dr. Baldwin did not respond to the call to rise. His daughter discovered that he had passed away. In his wake lay a life filled with challenges, yet also one of great service to others. Above all, He left behind a profound loneliness that, while it did not defeat him, cast a shadow over his later years.